What's going on, everyone? The Sacramento Kings, they haven't made the playoffs since 2006, and they went last year and made the trade for Domantas Sabonis, and they only played 15 games together, but you saw the chemistry. They were immediately named the Fox and the Ox, and they only played 15 games together during that stretch last season, but you really saw the improvement of the Sacramento Kings. Sabonis was able to be a facilitator, a scorer, a defender, a little bit of everything. And even De'Aaron Fox's numbers went up to 28.7 points per game. So you see what could potentially be with just this duo. But the Sacramento Kings did not stop there. Sacramento Kings can't be slept on. Now, personally, I don't think that they are a contender, but I think they are a team that is going to be very exciting, very fun to watch. They're going to be must-see. They're young. They're hungry. They really got some nice assets last year and this year to really improve their team. And with teams like Utah falling out of the stands and tanking, you got the San Antonio Spurs tanking, I really think this year could be the year that the Sacramento Kings squeeze into a playoffs. Now, the Western Conference is absolutely stacked, and there is so many teams that you can make the same argument for. But this is the first time in a long time where I really feel like Sacramento has done everything it needed to right the ship, to steer the ship in a positive direction and really start showing those signs of improvement and trying to build a team that could be very competitive. I mean, this team is young, and in the next several years, maybe they can get to contention level. I'm still a little concerned about De'Aaron Fox. I don't really know if this is a guy that can lead your team in a deep playoff run into a championship. But, I mean, he went from being the only guy on the team in many ways to now having several guys on the team that could really help and improve this roster. So maybe he can just kind of be a component and they can do it as like, a team effort leading the charge to a, NBA deep playoff run or maybe even a championship one day. I mean, you never know how this team gels, how this team meshes, how they grow and develop together. I mean, they got a lot of really young guys that are only going to improve. Like De'Aaron Fox still young, Sabonis is still young, and they picked up some really key pieces. So for example, look at the roster right now as it stands, no pun intended. You got the point guard position, you got De'Aaron Fox, Davion Mitchell. Shooting guard position, Kevin Huerter, Malik Monk. Small forward, Harrison Barnes, Terrence Davis. Power forward, Keegan Murray, Trey Lyles, and then Mute. And then at the center position, you got Sabonis, you got Holmes, and you got Len. So they are deep, they are young, they are athletic, they got defenders, they got hustlers, they got grinders, they got scorers. I mean, they got literally everything. Kevin Huerter was a big pickup for them. I mean, they essentially got him for a bag of chips. Like I said, they traded for Sabonis last season. They drafted Keegan Murray, who was great during Summer League. I mean, that dude was a baller during Summer League. Granted, don't want to put too much into Summer League because, you see a lot of people do fantastic in Summer League and it doesn't translate well. But he's young, he's going to develop, he's going to grow, and he could be a real steal for the Sacramento Kings, for this young team going forward. And then picking up Malik Monk from the LA Lakers. I mean, he was incredible for the Lakers last year. He was one of the few bright spots for the Lakers. And just that scoring threat, that scoring option, and have him as like your sixth man off the bench, I think is really solid. I mean, you could interchange a lot of these guys into the starting lineup. A lot of these bench guys could be starters potentially on some other teams. I mean, they have the talent to make some noise. Again, I don't think necessarily that they are a contender, but I do think that this team, as currently built, I think they could scare a lot of teams. I think that they are, at worst case, they're going to be a lot of fun to watch, which is something that hasn't really been said about the Sacramento Kings for some time. I mean, they've been a bottom-dwelling feeding team for years and years and years now. I mean, they haven't made the playoffs, like I said, since 2006. And Sacramento seems to be one of those organizations that just make all the wrong moves, whether it's drafting the wrong player or, making the wrong trade or, doing this, that, and the other. It's bad. And they've had talent on their team. I mean, they had a dominant, arguably best center in the league in DeMarcus Cousins at one point. It just seems like the Sacramento Kings haven't been able to catch a break. And it's like, it's hard to root for them when, it's just like, okay, like the team's terrible. You got like one good guy really that's exciting. Like, and is he really that great? Or is it just because he's on a team where, nobody else is that good, and it just raises a lot of questions. And now I'm not a Sacramento King by any means. I mean, if you follow this channel, I'm a Laker fan. But I am an NBA fan too. And when credit is credit due, I feel like I gotta give my flowers to these teams. And Sacramento is a team that I think deserves some flowers this year. I mean, obviously we gotta see how they put it all together, but they really do. They have a solid core. They got solid players. They got so many different mix and match lineups that they could do to find the best lineup. They got guys that could shoot, guys that could get to the basket. De'Aaron Fox adds that element that none of the other guys really add, that slasher that could get to the hoop, go get you 20 a game. You got Sabonis, where he could play, as the dominant big man, go get you easy buckets. Or he could be the guy that you run your offense through, right? Like run the inside-out game with Sabonis and have, your shooters around him and stuff. There's just so many ways to attack opposing teams with this current roster, and it's just fun. Like I said, I don't think that they're going to be a team that, where we're like, man, are they going to make the NBA Finals? I think that they're a team that could, make the play-in, maybe even depending on how things shape. You never know. Chemistry, if they build really good, there's a couple teams that are still questionable. Maybe they could squeeze into the 6th seed or the 7th seed or something like that. Because they're young. If they could stay healthy. Health is always an issue with a lot of these teams, especially in the upper seeding, stuff like that. If they could stay healthy, they could build that chemistry, they could be that solid, consistent team, then I really could see them. Maybe this is the year that they make their playoffs. And I have not said that in probably 16 years, where I'm like, man, Sacramento really looks like a team that can make the playoffs. I do think they'll hugely benefit from the play-in, because not just that, the thing with the play-in, and kind of one of the concerns I have with it, is that you only have to make the 10th seed, and then you don't have to be the best team out of the 4 that you're playing against, or the 4 that are in the play-in. You only have to be the best team those nights that you're playing whoever your matchup is. So for example, let's say they play the Minnesota Timberwolves, right? Minnesota, I think, is better than the Sacramento Kings. But if Sacramento can just be hot one night and just, shoot the lights out and just squeeze out a win, it didn't matter. You're not playing a best of 3. You're not playing a best of 7 or best of 5, whatever. It's just, you got this one game. We don't have to be better than them over a series. We just got to be better than them tonight. It's something we see in a lot of other sports, like football, for example. Like the playoffs, there have been lots of talks of should they play multiple games in the playoffs? Because you see time and time again, a team might not be the better team, but they only got to win that one day, and one one turnover or one, missed shot or, one bad possession could be the difference between winning and losing a game. And in most cases, you're like, okay, we got, a game in 2 days to make that up. We'll catch back up. Great example, the Warriors this year in the NBA Finals. Lose game 1, it's okay, no biggie. We'll be back for game 2. You win game 2. Ultimately, they end up winning the series. If that was just a one-game finals, guess what? Your Boston Celtics are the NBA championships. And so that's the thing that I think we need to recognize too with these Sacramento Kings. If they can just get to the play-in and they're, a well-oiled machine, they're thriving, they got the momentum going in, they feel confident, they feel good about themselves. This is a team that could get hot. This is a team that, they could go 2 games and just not be the better team, but be the better ones those nights. I just think ultimately we really can't sleep on the Sacramento Kings. I think that they're going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think that they're going to be entertaining. They're going to be one of those teams where it's who do I want? Oh, the Kings are playing the Warriors. Let's put that on. That's the game we're going to watch today, because that's going to be exciting. It's going to be fast-paced. This team's going to be young and hungry and just very competitive. And I think that they're going to be a tough out. I think they're going to be a tough loss. I think it's the NBA, and we're seeing it more and more now. Games seem to be one-sided or the other. You know what I mean? Most games seem to be total blowouts or not. I mean, look at this last playoffs. It's every game was a 20-point blowout for either team. It was just crazy. And that's kind of where we're heading. It's just one team's hot that day, the other team isn't. And so, the Sacramento Kings, I think that could be the case, but I'm really hoping that Sacramento is that team where we don't see those 20, 30 point, the game's over at halftime, it was the last several seasons, where it's you put the game on, you're oh, it's competitive. Okay. Oh, wait, it's only 3 minutes into the first quarter. And then by the end of the second quarter, you're all right, time to watch a different game. This game's over. I hope we don't get there. But Anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think of the Sacramento Kings this year? Do you think, like, yes, they are competitive, like they're young, they're hungry? You know, even if you're not a Sacramento fan and you're watching this, like I said, you got to at least acknowledge that they really are improving their team and they're at least headed in a positive direction. And they do have a lot of very exciting pieces to be competitive. Again, want to reiterate, not saying they're a contender, not saying they're going to be a top 3 seed in the West, anything like that. But if they finish the season at like somewhere between the 6 to 8 seed, I wouldn't be shocked. I really wouldn't. You know, you got a lot of teams that, like I said, Utah, they're out of the running. Somebody's probably going to take their spot. San Antonio Spurs made the play-in last year, and they're tanking. So they're out of the running. So there's 2 teams that you have a chance to or less to compete with to try to make a playoff spot. You know, Minnesota, the Pelicans, stuff like that. The Lakers, depending on how their team shapes up and what they do with Westbrook and stuff like that. I mean, you still have a lot of teams that could fill in those gaps. But ultimately, I think the Kings at least deserve to be in that conversation. We'll have to see how they play, you know, because, I mean, like I said, chemistry, you know, fit, things like that are always important. Like, how good are they defensively, stuff like that. That'll be a big factor because none of these guys are really, like, lockdown defenders, but Huerter is a solid defender. Fox can be a good defender. Sabonis can be a solid defender. Harrison Barnes is Harrison Barnes. He's been solid and consistent for years and years now. But anyway, that's how I feel about it. Love to hear the way you feel about it. Let me know down in the comment section below. One last little shameless plug is I did start As It Stands Lakers. It is a channel just like this, dedicated to only the Lakers, because the Lakers are my favorite team. And on this channel, As It Stands, I talk about all teams, all sports, stuff like that. We have football season coming up, so I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. And I just wanted to make a dedicated channel to the Lakers to give the ins and outs. Now, all the big stuff, all the big news and stuff, I will still post here on this channel. But if you want all the ins and outs and just rumors and theories and just discussions just strictly on the Lakers, link down in the description or in the comment section. Go check out the channel, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.